Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to part 24 of my Joseph Losey season. We're going back to 1975 and the romantic Englishwoman, starring Michael Caine and Glenda Jackson, who we lost recently. Also stars Helmut Berger, and there's a one scene cameo with Natalie Delon. And in this film, it kind of feels like Losey going over old ground. Perhaps in a telling fashion, Dirk Bogarde actually turned down the role that Michael Caine would play as a writer who's got a bit of writer's block. So he's taken on a film script project. There's one scene with the film director, I'm surprised Losey didn't actually play it himself, about an Englishwoman who goes to Germany or France, because they're waiting on the co-production where the money's coming from, to find herself, and meets a younger man. And of course, in Michael Caine's real life, his wife, Glenda Jackson, is in Baden-Baden in Germany. You can take a drink every time Baden-Baden is mentioned. To take a break from Michael Caine, and she meets Helmut Berger, who tells her she's a poet, but he may be involved in something else. And Michael Caine, and Glenda Jackson comes back, obviously wants to know what she's been up to, and then it turns out that Helmut Berger wants to, or will be, in England, and Michael Caine invites him over, and then he ends up staying at the house for a little while, and tensions rise as Berger outstays his welcome and facts about him come out, and that leads to other things which I'm not going to talk about. When I say it's perhaps Losey retreading old ground, as I say, Dirk Bogarde turned him down for the lead. Also, the production design's by Richard MacDonald, so there's lots of mirrors, including there's one shot in a mirror that looks very similar to the mirror in The Servant. It's just got kind of 70s decor around the mirror instead of 60s decor. So there's still lots of mirrors. The room in which Michael Caine writes has lots of printed photos that have been cut out of Glenda Jackson's head, almost like, you know, the room in Life and Death of Colonel Blimp with all these animal heads. This just has lots of Glenda Jackson's heads. At one point, in one of the best scenes in the film, Glenda Jackson's actually defacing her own face with drawing glasses and moustaches on herself and such. They have a maid, they have a small child who, in the tradition of small children in films, is quite annoying. And also it's about jealousy and it's about ownership. They have a sort of friend who works for the paper and deals in gossip that Michael Caine lays into in one of his typical shouting with his teeth clenched type way. And she has the line that women are an occupied country. There's also a nice line about sex shouldn't be something that you leave home for. The film does feature Helmut Berger and Michael Caine smoking two of the biggest cigars I've ever seen. I don't exactly know how long it would take to smoke those cigars. But certainly not a couple of hours, because they're about that size, if not longer. Jerry Fisher shot the film, who did a lot of Losey films. Tom Stoppard co-wrote the film, and it has the kind of structure perhaps of a Pinter, so it's not Pinter writing it. Obviously Losey had some of his best successes with Pinter, so it kind of feels like not necessarily a greatest hits of Losey, but Losey trying to go for what was successful for him in the past almost. The film itself certainly has its moments. I could be wrong, but I think it does have Losey's first F-bomb. It is 1975 after all. But on the whole, it kind of lacks a spark to it. I mean, obviously we have the meta thing going on. There are scenes of Glenda Jackson with Berger in Michael Caine's mind, or in Michael Caine's page as he's writing it. And there's a lot, again, about ownership of women and objects, and the place of, how Michael Caine has a speech about how men don't actually have a life either, because they're so busy protecting what they have, and protecting their wives to stop their wives going away and having affairs, because apparently Baden-Baden was famous in the 70s apparently for unsettled or disgruntled women going and finding young men in Baden-Baden to have affairs with. I mean, Glenda Jackson and Michael Caine are both fantastic, but again, the film just doesn't have that kind of spark that you kind of need this kind of film to have. So certainly for me, this is kind of in the accident camp of Losey films, that for me it's not that interesting. But as I say, I mean, lots of people rave about Accident, but I just don't find it that engaging. So a lot of people will possibly really enjoy The Romantic Englishwoman. But again, this is in lower tier Losey for me. The DVD, it's a pretty good picture quality. I think it's available in Kino Lorber. I don't know whether it's Blu-ray or whether it's just Kino DVD. This DVD just has trailers and those kind of information things about the stars and the filmmakers, but not really any other extras. So it's certainly a film worth checking out if you're fans of Glenda Jackson and Michael Caine. Glenda Jackson takes her clothes off again, as she seems to do in quite a lot of her films. So does Helmut Berger, at least for some balance. Michael Caine does not, probably for everybody's sake. He'd already done that in Get Carter after all. So certainly an interesting little film. 116 minutes, it's probably too long, but it does pass by quite well. Probably due to the 2 stars, because again, Michael Caine and Glenda Jackson reading the telephone book would be interesting as well. But for some reason, it just doesn't lack. It does lack a kind of energy to it. It doesn't have that pep and spark to it. Still worth seeing if you're a Losey completist, or if you're doing a Losey series, as I am. But it would probably be in the bottom half of his filmography, for me at least. It might be your favourite Losey, and that's absolutely wonderful. So thanks very much for watching episode 24. Episode 25 will be Losey doing a biopic starring one of the stars of Flash Gordon. So hopefully you'll join me for that. But in the meantime, have a look at some of the other 900 videos on the channel. And I'll say farewell. This is Saoirse Ronan from Saoirse Ronan Films saying farewell as predicted.